So I have my company, my flashlight company. I've got about 50 employees in Peru. Now I own the building that I'm in. That's got 30 employees. And then I have the restaurant and all these other things that have stemmed off because of the flashlight company. So all in all, there's probably 200 or 300 people in my area that are working because of the flashlight company. But then I go to China, and there's 200 or 300 people at one factory. And, there's like a whole ecosystem that was created because of this guy from a little town of 10,000 people decided he's going to sell a flashlight.
Welcome back for another fun episode here. Today's guest, I'm pumped. I love when we have people that have a great story to tell about an entrepreneur experience and how they're living their life. And when they drive from Illinois to come have some fun in Cincinnati and to hang out in studio, I'm pumped about a conversation. But today's guest, he's the definition of grit and hustle, and I love those two words. I'm going to make almost him say his last name. It's a hell of a last name. Grandadam?
Grandadam. Just like it's supposed to be.
Okay, so he got involved here. So today's guest, the definition of grit and hustle. Cody Grandadam, he started with nothing. No money, no credit, and built Lights-All into a multi-million-dollar brand that's now on the shelves at Walmart, Target, and beyond. But that's not the special part. He's a retail master, a product innovator, and a real entrepreneur who knows how to get things done without making excuses. My type of man. We're going to dive into what you built from scratch, what it really takes to break into big box retail, and the mindset he uses to win again and again. Cody, welcome to the Necessary Entrepreneur.
That was good. That was good. I almost want to play it back.
You want to do it?
That was nice. That was nice.
And you're the flashlight guy.
That's what they call me. I didn't give myself that name, believe it or not. But.
So how the hell did this happen without us saying, man, in the beginning and all that shit? Because you do have Adam in there.
Yeah.
Grandadam in the beginning.
It used to be Adam. Then, we added the grand later.
You became Grand.
Yes.
So, like when you're sitting, you have this cool 400,000 foot facility we were hearing about in your hometown in Illinois, and we're talking about the distillery and all the cool cultural things that you're doing. When you're sitting at that distillery, who's a tenant, and you're rolled up next to a guy you've known him for 3 or 4 years, and it's like, man, the context, everybody understands it. If he's like, man, where'd all this start? How the hell did you become you? And all the stuff falls away, and you don't have any agenda. What comes out of your mouth next?
Well, I guess it's all about context, right? I guess it would kind of, I'd have to understand why they're asking that, right? They're talking about the building itself, right? Like I think I mentioned earlier, most of the things that have happened has always been out of necessity, right? And so when it comes to the building that I'm in today, I was just a tenant at one point, right? And so it became a financial decision like, hey, I can pay $100,000 a year for rent, or I just buy the building for $500,000, right? And so that's what we ended up doing, right? And so, but how did it get to an abandoned old clock factory to where it is today, right? And that was just through honestly just thinking about what I want to see with it, where I want to take it to, and then just doing it one thing at a time, right? And so I knew like this building, everyone knew it, right? It's the West Clocks, like. Everybody, if I'm telling someone to come to my office, I don't give them the address. Hey, it's at the West Clocks building. And so, but the 30 years before I bought it, it was boarded up, right? They closed it down. The city was like, we need to tear this building down, right? And so for me, I felt like there was so much opportunity, right? And so when I bought the building, even I think there's articles that were written that I was interviewed, right? And they would ask me, what is your dream with this building? What do you want to do? And I just spoke it out to the universe, right? I just put it into existence. And so it's cool because exactly what I was talking about in that article, like, hey, I want to do an event center. I want to have a restaurant and a bar and pizza and all this stuff. We did all those things, right? And so although I didn't have a game plan per se, right, I kind of knew like, hey, I wanted to end up on the moon, right? I wasn't really sure how to get there, but like that was always on the front of my mind. And so, when, it's funny you mentioned the distillery. That was the very first tenant that I got in the middle of the building, right? But that was a catalyst to get all the other things, right? And so I think at the end of the day, like you have to know where you want to go, know where you want to go, where you're headed, and then you just need that first catalyst, and you just keep growing and going from there. And so that, honestly, between all of the businesses that I've done, that's how they've all gone. I've got an idea what I want to do. I look 5 years, 10 years ahead of time, and then I just take that first step, right? And so, like, I think if we went down into the whole story behind it, there's probably pivotal moments and different things, but at the end of the day, it was just deciding what I wanted, taking that first step, and then figuring out along the way.
What do we say for folks as we're talking about business and the journey and entrepreneurship? Because I had the vision of this podcast. I think great things come from originally us wanting to do something with it, not wanting a brand but I just said, hey, I think if we can understand the stories and the contextual background of all these people that now they just look like overnight success. Like, this guy's got this huge flashlight company, and he was on that podcast, and I'm at Target, and now I see it. And you can connect the dots. But the story of all the failure and all the stuff in between, that when people are like, man, how is it? You're making all this money. Your life's great and stuff. Must be awesome, right? And then you walk away in this quiet moment, and you probably somewhere inside, not condescending, not judgmental, but it's kind of like, man, if they only knew what it took.
Yeah, it's like when someone says, it must be nice, right? And then the thing today, though, like especially with social media, like you mentioned, that's all you see. You see the good stuff. You see the nice stuff, right? You see the fancy cars. You see like all the trips and different things with these influencers, right? They're not going to share like all their struggles. And so then everyone thinks like that's the way that it is, right? And so they think, okay, these guys are just doing great. They have no more issues. They have no more problems. And so it's natural for them to meet someone like yourself or someone like me and then have that same exact mindset, like, man, it must be nice, right? But
it is.
It is nice.
See, I will tell them it is, but
like it takes work.
It does.
Right? It takes effort, right? It's like getting a six-pack, which I obviously don't have a six-pack, but like you've got to go through the discomfort for a very long time with absolutely no results, right? And I think that's why people fail in business because, I think it was probably 2 years at least before I pulled any money out of my company, my flashlight company, right? And most people wouldn't be willing to do that. But I knew like this is what's required of me to get to where I want to go.
How did you know that? I saw on your Instagram recently, like it's fun. I can always see when people are going somewhere from a trajectory perspective. Go to their Instagram and you'll see an evolution of content. Yeah. It's like you're on point. You're getting on point with content,
sure.
Right? But you had a quote about Jim Rohn.
Mm-hmm.
So listen here, Mr. Junior Grant Cardone, going on your private jet and all this stuff. But there's a picture and there's a quote about Jim Rohn. And I read this, that you put that there, because anytime you hear somebody or see somebody put a quote for an inspirational figure from the past, we're not just using it. That means something to you. Yeah. Do you remember what the quote was? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, remind me.
So I never get the context right, but it's like you're not gonna become and change the thing overnight, but you can change the way you think overnight.
100%.
Right. So it wasn't perfect, but that's in the context of it.
Yeah. So, Jim Rohn, because when I had my son at 18, right? 18 years old. Actually, I think I was 19 by the time he finally popped out of the oven. But, we didn't have like the social media that we have today, right? And so if I wanted to work on myself, it was on YouTube, right? I'd just be on YouTube at night, and Jim Rohn was the guy that I was always watching, right? Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, those type of individuals.
That then taught Tony Robbins and different guys and
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
And they all had something in common. It was all, hey, work on yourself more than anything else, right? And I think that was like is probably the biggest factor in my success today, is that I really focused on working on my mindset, my philosophy, my perspective on how I see things, and that's what's made everything possible today.
Isn't that like just full ownership of everything?
Yeah,
that's pretty much what we're saying. That's the layman. That's the me and you. These non-incredibly grammatically correct guys, but it's just like, hey, we just take responsibility,
mm-hmm.
right? And we realize like we can't wait for anyone. We're the one that has to be the change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a struggle today for a lot of people. Like I know, and I think maybe we shouldn't put them in a box, but like the younger generation specifically. Like,
and you've got two sons.
I got a 20-year-old and 18-year-old, right? And so my 20-year-old is a lot like me. My 18-year-old is too, but my 20-year-old, he has a lot of the things that I know are required to be very successful, but they're also the same things that could get you in a little bit of trouble too. So for example, like authority, right? I respect authority, but it's very few and far in between that I really like people telling me what to do, right? But I've learned to accept that. And there's certain individuals, like if the Walmart buyer calls me, he can tell me anything he wants, right? I'm gonna drop what I'm doing and do it. But I've realized to come, like, certain things take that. You have to do those things. Well, my 20-year-old hasn't really figured that out yet, right? There's certain things of authority that you have to stay within that lane, right? But in the same breath, he has a lot of the other things that are required to be a great business person.
Like?
Tenacity, an attitude, right? I think you need a little bit of an attitude to be in business, right? A chip on his shoulder, right? Like, he in my little community, which the town I work in, Peru's got 10,000 people. The town I live in has 1,400. So everybody knows who I am, right? And that's not bragging because there's 1,400 people there.
When
right?
you do things, whoever the guy is that runs the dealership that his name's on it, they know him.
Yeah, they know him, right?
Whoever's built the thing, we know him.
Yeah.
That's not bragging. It's just the facts of the thing.
Absolutely.
So this should be the inspiration. Take your 1,400 population town and do the biggest thing.
That's right. And it's usually not that hard to do, right? In 1,400 people. But, my son, he was a class clown, likes to be the center of attention. Same thing I was, right? In high school, I was a guy joking around, getting in trouble. I was never a bully by any means at all, but I was always trying to be the center of attention. And that's because I always wanted to stand out, right? So I say something to my son Hayden, like, hey, you need to stand out without sticking out, right? And so, like, in school, to stand out, like, you gotta be the funny guy, right? As an adult, I've learned, like, okay, I can stand out. I don't have to be the funny guy. I just got to be making stuff happen, right? And so that's what I'm talking about with Hayden. Like, he's got to channel that energy into something else, right? And so it's like, I think it's the difference between being, like, notorious and famous, right? Which I don't want to be famous. I just want to be filthy rich, right?
There you go.
But I think that's something that the younger generation is having a hard time figuring out, which they will.
Is it because it's just this? Everything is on Front Street, and they see all these influencers, and it appears they're living these big lives, and they just want that. Is that a part of it?
I think that's a part of it, and I think again it goes back to what we said before. Like, they're not sharing all the things that it took to get to there, right? When you even look at like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, right? They're building these huge businesses now, way outside of just content creation. But I've been around these individuals. I've been around content creators. And it is hard.
It's not. It's 16, 18-hour days that people don't see.
Nonstop,
it's exhausting.
Right? And you've always got to be thinking of ideas, what you're going to post, videos, and you got post-production, marketing. Like, it's super difficult, right? But even up until recently, I was like, man, that's the dream job. Just carry a camera around with you, film yourself. But now that I'm around these content creators, like, it's a tremendous amount of work. And so I think most kids today, they're not seeing that because they're not out hanging out with these guys, right? So they're just looking at it as, man, they got this funny video that went viral. I just got to do that same thing, right? But there's you got to do it consistently over and over and over and over again. And like we said, like, it's delayed gratification, right? And so at the end of the day, that's what they see. And so that's what they expect.
Do you think it's a double-edged sword? Do you think if somebody that had massive credibility in your life would have told you how hard it was going to be, do you think maybe you wouldn't have done it?
No, because I probably wouldn't have believed them, right? And I think that's something that you need too, right? Sometimes you just got to be like, no, I'm going to figure this out, right? And so, like, having that chip on your shoulders, I think, is really valuable. In fact, when I hire people, I look for people with the chip on their shoulder, like they want to prove something. And so, like, that's probably the attitude I would have, right? Because honestly, when I was 19, 20, 21, I was always dabbling in different things, mostly like network marketing, multi-level marketing, and everybody told me that same thing. Like, that's never going to work. You're never going to make money. You're just, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, what do you know? Mm-hmm. And that was just me. It wasn't confidence. It was just me, like, almost like that authority thing. Like, you're not going to tell me what to do or how to do it. I'm just going to figure it out. But then
you have the responsibility to do it.
You do, right? And so that's why I think it's very important. And that's the difference, I think, is that's why it was important for me to be sitting in my office at night watching Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, like, working on this muscle, right? working on the brain, the philosophy. So that way, when those circumstances come up, yeah, you have the confidence, almost arrogance to be like, whatever, right? But then you know enough in your mind, like, if it's to be, it's up to me. Like, I got to make this happen.
Does manifestation feel too, like, woo-woo?
It's not for me. So, like, anybody that knows me, and I don't talk about this much because people think, like, whatever, you're crazy, but, like, I have literally have manifested almost everything in my life, good or bad. And, like, I can say that, like, and anybody that's around me, they know that to be true, right? And so, like, I'm a firm believer in what we think about, we bring about, right? And even if in good and bad, right? Good times, bad times, all those different things. I think that most of the things are within our control. And so I'm not saying it's a matter of like, oh man, if you think about it and you put it out in the world, it's just going to happen. But I think like the activity goes where the thoughts flow, right? And so that's when I say manifestation, that's more or less what I'm talking about. Like, because if it was real, I would have won the big multi hundreds of millions of dollars worth of lottery, right? That hasn't happened yet.
But you're actually taking the action to have a shot at doing that through work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right.
So you said filthy rich.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it.
Filthy rich.
Why?
So, we talked about this earlier, and it's about time, right? And so we all have the same amount of time in a day, right? But we're all going to spend our time based upon what we want to get out of that, right? And so, like, for example, if you want a six-pack, you're going to have to spend some time in the gym, right? Whatever it is. When it comes to being filthy rich, you can buy your time, right? And so I talk about this a lot. I'm a type of guy that I always need to be productive. Like, I cannot watch TV. I cannot surf the internet even. Now, I can surf the internet, but I also have my phone in my hand looking at something else, or I'm on the phone doing something else. And that's been a problem for me, right? And so it's very hard for me to relax. But what I found out was when I started making a little bit more money, now on a Saturday when I would be cutting the grass, I can hire someone to cut my grass, right? Instead of running to Home Depot to pick up stuff, I have someone doing that stuff, right? And so now on a Saturday, I actually relax now because I look around and I say I'm still being productive. I'm still getting things done, right? And so if you're filthy rich, right, you can afford that on such a higher level, right? And then secondly, I love helping people, right? Like I get great satisfaction of seeing people do well, right? Money can help that in a huge way, right? And I think about all the problems that we have. Almost every single problem besides health can be fixed with money. Almost everything, right? And so you've got to be, I don't need to be filthy rich to help fix my problems, but I have to be filthy rich to help my brother, my mom, my family, people around me. So that's, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, I want to be filthy rich.
Since you're the flashlight guy, like as we dig in here to the business part and help people learn all the things that, see, it's not necessarily what you didn't know when you started. You already touched on it earlier. It's that you kept going.
Yeah.
But when this all started, what I know about these entrepreneurial adventures, not necessarily mine, but everybody gets to sit across from, you just didn't know what it was going to be.
No idea.
You had no clue. And you probably, I don't know if you made an organized business plan, but if you did, it was lit on fire real quick.
Yeah, I did make a business plan because my wife was actually in school when I started my business, and she was taking business administration, and she actually turned my business plan in for a grade, and I got a C-. So it wasn't a great business plan.
So did it work out the way that business plan said?
I pretty much built my business exactly to what that business plan was, to a T.
So it worked.
It did. Yeah.
Why do you think it worked? That young guy who didn't have a bunch of entrepreneur experience. Maybe you did. Maybe you were cutting grass. Maybe did you?
Yeah. I started my lawn care business at 12 years old, and so that's a funny story too. I asked my dad for a new pair of shoes, and like yourself, you said earlier, like we didn't grow up with money. Now we weren't poor, but we were broke.
There you go.
Right? There was never money at the end of the month, and so I think the shoes were like $100, $120. And my dad probably had $120, but not for a pair of shoes. And so he said, Cody, how about this? I'll go buy you a lawnmower, mow our grass, and you can use it to mow anybody else's, and you buy your own pair of shoes. And so that's what he did. I was 12 years old, and I went out and got 5 or 6 lawns, and I think I'm in the fifth. I don't know how old you are at 12. I think the fifth or sixth grade.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm out cutting grass, and I was making pretty dang good money. Like some of those were $20, some were $10. I was making over $100 a week at 12 years old. But then I realized, like, man, this isn't a business. This is a job. Like, if I don't cut the grass, I'm not getting paid, right? So then I hired my sister. And back then, like, minimum wage was like $6 an hour, so I gave her like 10. She was happier than anything, and I made leveraged income, right? And so that's the point where I learned, like, okay, there's a business that you can start, but it's not really a business until it grows in spite of you, right? Now, granted, started my flashlight company, and to this day, like, that's a business that is growing because of me, right? But I'm working on that, So,
Talk about that.
Yeah, so, like, when I started my flashlight company, it was just me, right, in a little 10 by 10 office, and I hired one more guy. But my biggest thing is, like, I've never been trained really on how to sell product, how to run a business or anything. And so the way I got started in the importing is I worked for someone else when I was 20 years old. The guy was hiring a marketing manager, $60,000 a year. I was like, man, if I get this job, I'm going to be rich. And so I applied, never called me, called him, never called me back. And finally, he got so tired of me, he's like, come on in, I'll give you an interview. And he's like, I can't hire you for the marketing position. You're not qualified, but I've got this little battery company I started, and I would love to pay you just to go into convenience stores and sell into these convenience stores batteries. And I'm like, I'll do it. Started out at $200 a week, but I can make my own hours, right? And so I did that, but no one trained me. My training was literally fill up the van with batteries, go into a convenience store, and then develop a relationship, right? But there wasn't even that. Like, that's just, I knew how to do that. And so I did that. And I was successful at that. We opened up a bunch of accounts. But at the end of the day, I never had proper training, right? And so most of the things that I've done, I just did by figuring it out. So it's very difficult for me to train someone to do what I did. And when you don't have that ability, it's very hard to create systems and processes. And so that's how I literally have been going for the past 14 years of my flashlight company, right? When it comes to product development, I'm developing the products. When it's coming to calling on the big retailers, I'm calling on the big retailers. So now I'm doing it. I'm looking for other talent that actually learn to do the things through a process and systems, and then eventually, and hopefully in the near future, the business will run. I can literally work on it rather than only in it, right? And so that's the next goal for the company.
What do you think the challenge is that you figured out the approach? See, the approach isn't some system to train. The approach is, I just went and did it.
Yeah.
But see, we actually hear that from all the so-called gurus. If you really dig deep, whether it's a Steve Jobs, all these, Amazon and Bezos still say they operate their company as if it's day one.
Sure.
Right? It's that grind piece. It's you have to do all the things and get down in the weeds. If the characteristic in you that it took to win and to build this thing, if you couldn't train it, how do you train a system around it? Is it a diluted version?
Yeah.
Because wouldn't you want to just package what you know and just give it to people to help build and change their lives and improve your thing?
Yeah, and that's something that we're starting to actually do is help other people to get to where we are today, right? And so it's like, well, that's kind of like counterintuitive. Like you just said, like you didn't develop these systems, and now you're going to help other people. Like that, how does that work out, right? And so at the end of the day, when it comes to creating the systems and processes, you really need someone from the outside to look in, right? Because like perspective is when two people are looking at the same thing, but they see two different things. And so I recently read a book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. Have you read that?
So good.
Incredible book, right?
Who wrote that?
I should know that. Incredible book, though.
Yeah, he'll look it up for us. Dave will check it up for us.
So I read that book, right? And I'm going to be honest, like when it comes to my flashlight company, if someone's like, hey, how did all this happen? Like, how did you get in these stores? I never really had an answer. And then I read Blue Ocean Strategy, and I was like, that's exactly how I grew my business. But I didn't know I was doing it that way, right? It just so happened to be that way. And so when I'm thinking about developing the systems and the strategies, I obviously have strategies that I'm already doing, right? And I do have systems, right? They're just documented. They're just not documented systems that I could physically duplicate. But if someone from the outside comes in, then they can say, okay, these are the things that you're doing that are working. Now let's create a system to where other people can do that same thing, right?
Jump in there. Who is it, Dave?
I'm not going to pronounce it right. Renee Malborgne.
I think they're co-authors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, with
Gene
W. Chan Kim.
Okay, yep, that's the
Okay.
other one.
All right.
Yeah,
So, but it seems like they're divergent thoughts,
yeah,
doesn't it?
for sure.
So you think someone from the outside can come listen to you,
Yeah.
almost like a ghostwriter.
Yeah, so and because even like when it comes to Blue Ocean Strategy, I hired a young kid. I think he's probably 23, 24 years old. Just applied to my business, and he sat in my office for like 6 months, and he just kind of just paid attention. And I would tell him like, I'm not sure how we're getting to this, why I'm doing this, and all these other things. And he's like, Cody, read this book, and it was Blue Ocean Strategy. And I read it, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I grew my business. He's like, yeah, that's how you grew your business. Like, it was very obvious to him.
So there's a documented system that he listened to and say, here's the system.
Yeah, right. And so I think that's what it takes, is someone from the outside to look in. I think that's why, like, I think consultants sometimes get a bad rap, right? And but on the same breath, sometimes, a lot of times, it takes someone from outside to look in. And to them, it's super obvious, right? I meet with entrepreneurs all the time that are developing products. And there's just certain things that are like so obvious to me. And like I say it out loud, and they're like, I never thought about that. I'm thinking, like, how did you not think about that, right?
Because we're in our bubble.
We're in our bubble.
We just can't see it.
And we're engulfed in like what is going on today, right? And again, it comes down to working on the business, right? And so like in my flashlight company, there's always a priority, right? And so I'm handling those priorities, so I'm not thinking about the other things about working in the business,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what we're really starting to focus on, is bringing in more people, and then creating strategies around what's been working.
When you say more people to work in your business or other businesses?
In my business, right? So like for example, when I started my company, again, no money, like negative money, right? There's no money in my checking account. I didn't have a vehicle, right? I was poor. Like,
So
we were
everybody's
poor.
listening to this, and they're like, how?
Yeah. So how? So I started that other company. Like I said, I worked for them for 3 or 4 years. I got hired as a sales guy, $200 a week. And I grew in the first like 60 or 90 days just by going into convenience stores. I opened up like 30 or 40 accounts. And my boss was tickled pink, right? Is that a thing they say here, tickled pink?
We're going to.
All right.
You're bringing it
tickled
from
pink,
Illinois.
right?
Let's go.
So that just means you're happy, right? Excited. And I think I did like $6,000 in sales. And he was happy as a clam. But I remembered something that Jim Rome taught me, right? We don't get paid for the time or the hour. We get paid for the value. And so I knew to myself, okay, I brought this guy $6,000 in sales. If we're making 50%, he made $3,000. It took me 60 days to do that, right? He owns the company. He can't pay me very much off that top. And so, man, I lost my,
What did he pay you, $1,000?
$200 a week I started at.
That's what, okay, yeah.
Right, 200.
Yeah.
And then so then my dad said to me, he said, Cody, you're going to these stores, developing these relationships, but the guy's only buying for one store. Call someone with a couple hundred stores. I'm like, all right, well, who do I call? He's like, well, I always see these gas stations on the side of the road called Come and Go. Give them a buzz. Happened to get the buyer on the phone. He answered the phone. And at this time, I'm like 20 years old. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get a meeting with this guy. I got a meeting with him, and he ended up buying a counter display for every single store. It was an $85,000 order. And that's when I was like, man, it literally took the same work to sell this guy than it did to sell the one guy that owns one convenience store down the road. And that's when everything shifted. That's when everything changed, right? And so I did that for that company, and I grew the sales from literally 0 to $4 million in 3 or 4 years. And at the time, I was not only doing the sales, but I started importing the products too.
Sourcing all the goods.
Yeah. And so remember, it was a battery company. And the problem with the batteries is it's just like a gallon of milk. You're not going in and buying a gallon of milk until you need one, right? And so I had no sales training, right? But what I knew how to do was develop relationships and build friendships, because I genuinely liked that. And so I was building these relationships with these big buyers. Dana, for example, at Come and Go. it doesn't matter how much he likes me. He cannot buy more batteries. He's got a whole display. And so I said, well, Dana, what else do you buy? Oh, I buy motor oil. I buy flashlights. I'm like, oh, flashlights. They need batteries. So then I literally just went online, started sourcing flashlights. And that's when like the whole company sales changed, right? That's when we really increased sales. And so that's how I got into the flashlight business, right? I started buying them for that company. But long story short, I was doing $4 million in sales, but I was making about $45,000 a year. Now I know why I'm getting to this. And I had a company vehicle, not one, but two. And two of them put together were probably only worth about $5,000.
With a gas card and all the things.
Gas card, insurance, cell phone bill. And so when I left that company, which I didn't really have a plan when I left, it was just a heated thing. And looking back, it was a pretty petty thing. But remember, I was 23 years old, right? And so I remember I had that authority problem. And so when I left, my company cars didn't go with me. My cell phone didn't go with me, right? And I was so stubborn. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going back there. And so I literally went down to the unemployment office, filed unemployment. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, he's going to call me back anyways, right? But I just need something, right? And so that's why I didn't have the car when I started my company, because he took it away. And long story short, my neighbor that I lived next to me for 5 or 6 years, this is why I say like a lot of good things happen from necessity or bad situations. He liked to drink, but he was a successful business owner. And so he had 3 DUIs in his life. And his last DUI, he's lost his license for about 2 years. And so I would give him a ride to work every single morning, and I'd give him a ride home every single night. And every morning he'd hear about what's going to happen that day, what's going on. And every night he'd hear about like, oh, I closed this account, I did this, right? And so I said to him, I said, man, I quit my job, man. What am I going to do? He's like, start your own flashlight company. I'm like, how? I have no idea what I'm doing. He's like, do you know where to buy them? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you know who to sell to? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you got to half figured out. I'll let you have my little office in the West Clocks building. You can have it for free. You can use my secretary, and let's just get started. And that's what we did, right? And so I tell people, if I hadn't worked for the other company, I'm 100% confident today I would not own a flashlight company. I know I would be successful doing something, right? And so what makes me not feel like guilty about that is because I developed that flashlight company, but it was for somebody else, right? And so now when I started my company, like I just got to do it for myself, right? Now, granted, I still had no idea what I was doing, right? But that's why I didn't have a vehicle.
So if you wouldn't have had, I guess this person, they weren't a mentor, but they were in a mentoring position because they said, hey, you know how to do these two things, so
Yeah.
That's what a mentor does. If you didn't have that at that moment, the idea of the thing doesn't happen, right? It doesn't.
Yeah.
It might have been something else, to your point, right? But that thing doesn't happen. But then everything that you did before as the employee. Mm-hmm. So this timing of the things, it's really, really important, right?
For sure.
The good, the bad, you put it all together. You didn't intentionally, you just lived next to the guy.
Yeah.
That wasn't intent. So you spoke earlier that you're a relationship person. That's what you knew how to do. It's the same way that you drove for the guy. Mm-hmm. Because if you hadn't made some connection with him, if you guys didn't get along, if he didn't like you, it doesn't matter. He wouldn't have had you drive him. You probably weren't getting paid. He might have like bought you some cigarettes or paid for some gas or something, right? You wouldn't have had that relationship with yourself. This is why taking full transparent responsibility for your life is important.
Yeah.
How you engage with people, relationships. Are you a naturally curious person?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
Yep.
Do you reflect on that much?
I think more so now, right? Because I think we touched on this earlier in the hallway. Like, I have ADHD. I think a lot of entrepreneurs do, right? And so, like, I get distracted really easily. And I think the one thing I've done, and I don't regret any of this, but like shiny object syndrome, right? And so I'm just curious, and I also have that like fear of missing out, and so I always want to be part of things, right? And so, I now more than ever I think to myself like, okay, is this something like I always have to think about my long-term goals, right? And like, is this curiosity going to get me in trouble, right? Like, maybe this will work. I'm curious to see if it will work, right? Now I kind of have to really look back at things and say, okay, this is cool. This is fun. Maybe it's going to make some money, but like, is it distracting me for what my big mission is, my big goal?
Focus and discipline.
Exactly.
So that guy that was in that mentorship role, when you said, well, how would I do it? I'm wondering, without him saying the things he said, if you wouldn't have been able to move beyond the how. And I ask that because I see so many people get stuck there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, looking back, you know, like I said, I was 24 years old. And so I think that if we didn't get past the how, like, he didn't give me any real information, right? Other than, hey, you can use my secretary, you can use my office, we have printers and that. But he gave me the confidence to be like, dude, you can do it. Just use my secretary, right? Now, obviously, so many things that came in about, and then by that time, I'm like, I got to figure this out, right? And so, like, you know, Damon John wrote a book called The Power of Broke, right? And a lot of that has to do with, sometimes that's a very powerful tool to be broke, because your back's against the wall and you have to figure it out,
Yep.
right? And so I think between, like, all my personal development training at 19, 20, 21, and then having someone like Mike saying, hey, you can do this, that gave me enough confidence. And then I dove in deep enough to where I'm like, I've got to figure this out now. I got to make it happen.
Yeah. Do you think you were tied into, did you want to change your life and live a certain life? Was that the big why at the end of the road?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another catalyst in my life, I think, was, you know, joining a network marketing company at such a young age. And so I worked for a company, didn't work for them. I was an independent contractor called Prepaid Legal. And so they're still in business today. They've been around for, I think, 50 years. They sold legal insurance, basically. You pay a little monthly premium, and you've got lawyers on retainer. I still pay the membership today. But anyways, I never made a ton of money at that business. I probably never made $100,000 in the whole time I was there. But I can tell you hundreds of millions of dollars have been made because of that business. Because when you join a network marketing company, the people that are successful in network marketing, it's highly dependent on the people that you bring into the business. And so in order to grow or elevate, you have to literally take people with you, right? To be promoted in network marketing companies, typically you got to basically have someone do exactly what you did to get up to the next level. Where in corporate America, like if you want to get a promotion, you got to take someone else's job. And if they didn't get promoted, they're going out the back door or demoted. And so at the end of the day, see, that's the ADHD. I think I just saw a squirrel there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you know, that was the company that said, invest in yourself. Oh, back to the why, right? And so I remember, I'll never forget this day. My wife and I were in, I think it was in South Carolina, and we're around a table, right? It was a circle, and we were all sitting around telling our stories. And John Malott was there, which he's a good friend of mine today still. And he said, you know, the way to be successful in network marketing is you have to have a reason. You have to have a why. You have to have a why so big, if you literally think about it, and if you think about having it taken away from you, like you'll cry, right? And so we went around the whole table, and it got to me. And at the time, I'm, like I said, maybe 19, 20. I've got Hayden, my oldest son, already. And it was at that very moment where I was like hearing everybody's story, and it just clicked. And I'm like, man, if I want to give my family the life that I always wanted, it's not going to happen unless it's up to me, right? And so that was the point where I said, okay, this is my why. I want to give my wife literally whatever she wants, right? I want to have that ability, and I want to give my kids whatever they want, right? And now as I've grown up, like, I realized, like, you can't give your kids everything they want. What are you going to be creating? But that's when that why came about. And then after that point, like, I'm sure you've seen it in the books and all the things, but like, I had my why on my refrigerator when you open the door, right? I had before I went to bed at night, brushing my teeth, that was on my mirror, right? And so, like, that gets back to the manifestation.
It's the vision board stuff. It's all
the vision board, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't think, like, if I put this on my fridge, it's going to happen because of that. But what that did was it allowed me to be, you know, dedicated to the process without any results, because that's what stuck in my mind. I was like, that's what I want. And so when I started making decisions, like, okay, I'm 20 years old, my buddies are partying, right? I've got a meeting on a Saturday in Chicago for prepaid legal. I didn't want to go to that prepaid legal meeting, but I would open my fridge and see I want to be a millionaire by 25. You know what I mean? So that was always in the back of my mind. And so then it was easy to make decisions. Hey, is this going to help me get closer or further away from that why? Right? And so I think a why, a reason for doing things, is like one of the most important things.
That's what Simon Sinek says, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said it all starts with your why.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. I go back to, I'm a sap for some love story movies, man. Every once in a while, I don't know what you're probably watching some horror movies or something, man. I don't know.
I don't watch many movies anymore.
Yeah,
I like a good horror movie.
Okay, I
but
figured
as long as it's not like the, like the Poltergeist kind of movies. You know what I'm saying?
The Exorcist, not Exorcist and Poltergeist, not that.
I'm not a fan of things that could actually happen, right? Like I'm not afraid of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? But like when it comes to like Annabelle the doll and getting possessed and stuff, I'm like, no, thank you. You know,
maybe a good werewolf movie or something.
Yeah, I'm not for
vampire.
that. You know,
I go back all the time. I think to get tired of it, but sometimes I'm in these meetings and sales meetings, and I don't like motivation. I like inspiration because I think we can all inspire each other. But I go back to this moment in the Notebook.
Okay. Never seen The Notebook, but my wife has.
Okay. So this gives you guys something to talk about at Offspring tonight.
Heck yeah.
When he's jamming out to it, be like, hey, I was talking about The Notebook today. And so there's this moment where she's deciding who she's going to be with, what guy. There's the high school sweetheart that everybody said would be nothing, that he ended up having the chip on his shoulder, and he did turn the house into the thing and the ideal. But then through life, she's evolved and listened to her wealthy family to be with the rich guy, but she's not really in love. So that whole saps. But she spends a weekend when she's engaged. She's supposed to be getting married to the rich guy, but she goes back. She bails out for a weekend, and she goes back for a weekend with the high school sweetheart guy. And she shouldn't have done it because then she's torn.
Yeah.
The old feelings. But they're outside, and she's getting ready to leave. She's like, listen, I'm torn. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be getting married. And so she's outside, and she's going to leave. She had a great weekend, and she's getting in the car. And he can still see she's torn, and he loves her. And he said, what do you want? And he, without, it's not abusive, but he's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, make a decision for your life and set a point that you're going after and go get it.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about here.
That's exactly right. You know, and I think that's how we can make good decisions. Just ask yourself, like, what do you want? Right? And it's just like me, you know, I've recently lost 120 pounds. And everyone's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, it was super easy.
Hung out with Jelly Roll.
Yeah, right. He's doing good too, right? It's losing 120 pounds is just as easy as gaining it, right? It's not as simple, because it's really simple to be like, give me the double cheeseburger, fries, and whatever else.
I mean, there's a difference in easy and simple.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Oh, I love this conversation. Easy and hard, simple and complicated are two different categories.
100%.
Okay,
100%. And so, how did I do it? Well, I said to myself, I want to be healthy. Like having money doesn't matter at all if you're dead, right? And so, like, I don't want to like tie my shoes and then get out of breath anymore. And so, like, that's what I wanted, right? And so now I'm having dinner or whatever, and I want a donut, right? But it's like, okay, Cody, remember what you really want? Like, you want to lose weight. You don't want to be fat your entire life, unhealthy, right? And so then, I'm not going to make that decision then. I'm going to skip the donut. But the problem is we can't really understand what it's like, because, for example, like you're never going to like really know what it's like to die, obviously, because until you're there, right? And so like it's hard for you, and this is why you have to really work on your mindset. It's hard for you to justify the consequences. I mean, it's easy for you to justify the consequences because you haven't had them yet, right? You know, once you have consequences for doing something, you're probably not going to do that thing again. But there's no consequences with eating a donut. Not maybe for 20 years or down the road, right? And so, like, that's why the mindset is so important and so vital. Because, again, it's delayed it's delayed satisfaction, but you're dealing with the issue now, right?
So I use the word reverse engineering.
Perfect.
And I don't think there's hardly anything in life that we can't really quick say, what do you want? You're like, okay, here's the thing. We can reverse engineer from where you want all the way back to where you are.
Yeah.
And then the intentional decisions and what you can get really busy doing with it. Say, if I do this, this happens. If I do this, this happens. You can intentionally figure that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you might not know the time, because if you didn't have the experience that it's going to take to lose 120 pounds, that it's going to take to build a business with $10 million in sales, you might not know, but you can see the activity that will lead to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
There's not many things in life that aren't that way in my mind and that clear.
Yeah, and it's very binary. Like I said, there's a book called The Slight Edge, and it talks just like that. And that's the problem. Like there is a slight edge, right? Like if I say to you, I'm going to go run 5 miles today, I'm not going to notice any difference in my life, right? I might be a little tired,
for
right?
2 or 3 months,
right? And that's the slight edge. Same thing if we're eating unhealthy, we're not going to notice any difference until like it's too late. And that's what I've really thought about lately. Like, okay, I'm 38 years old now. I think I'm 38, maybe 39. I'm not 40 though.
That gray beard says different.
I know.
I threw 42 on you when you came in. You're like, come on, man.
I didn't have my glasses off yet. Now I look really old, right? And so, what was I saying?
Slight edge.
The slight edge, right? And so, I don't know what my point was.
Well, I just think it's very. We can reverse engineer this stuff.
That's right. That's what we're saying.
And so these things, and you can take it back over, but these small things every day that if I go hit up Chick-fil-A or something, right, man, it tastes good, and that feeds that dopamine or that urge right then.
Yep.
But if I stack it up and do it for 3 or 4 months, there's going to be some big impacts, right?
Yeah.
I need to tell myself. See, I do this with success in business, and you can take this back over. But I tell people, I'm like, hey, listen, if you really are going to live a happy life, whatever happy is, that's a fun conversation, right? But if you're going to be content, truly content, making $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000 years, if you're honestly going to be content, then you should go do that.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel bad about it. However, if inside of you there is a desire and a want for more, you shouldn't accept average.
And you're not going to be happy either.
You're not. And so what I'm saying is that if being overweight and out of breath, if that's okay for you, you just need to be honest about the exchange.
Yeah.
And that's the problem in life and in business. That's the issue. I don't think it's that we aren't smart. I don't think humans are inherently dumb. They're just not willing to make the hard decision to sacrifice things short term. You got to give up what you want now for what you want later.
Yeah, you know, my dad actually said something to me. My dad, you know, he wasn't he's still around. It sounds like he's gone, right? But he was never the type of dad who was like, "Good job, son. Proud of you," right? And pat me on the back. Like, you know, I graduated high school. What did my dad give me? He just went to my graduation, right? I didn't get a card. I didn't get anything because that was expected of me, right? You know, I wanted a pair of shoes. He bought me a lawnmower, right? He wasn't like, "Hey, good job going to start this business." Like he was never that way. And to this day, he's not even that way, right? And I know my dad's proud of me because he tells everybody else, but he never tells me. And I'm good with that because I think that's what fuels me and motivates me because I'm never content. I never felt like I've made it. Like I'm always searching for that. But one thing my dad told me, and I was 18 years old, and my wife is pregnant at the time with our son Hayden, and I just had graduated high school, and I honestly had no idea what I was going to do yet. But I was never worried or concerned because I've always had the mentality like I'm going to figure it out. Like I've always had that mentality. But one thing he said to me that stuck out to me, because I was 18 years old, he said, "Cody, how old are you going to be in 10 years?" And I'm like, 28. Where's this going, right? He's like, all your peers around you that are 18, how old are they going to be in 10 years? 10 years. I said, they're going to be 28 as well. He says, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I have no idea, but I'll figure it out. He's like, well, think about this. In 10 years, you're going to be 28. Everyone around you is going to be 28 years old. And you're all going to be looking at yourself as a 28-year-old person. And you're going to be dealing with the results of all the years leading up to that. And so for the next 10 years, you could go out and become a doctor if you want. You become a lawyer. You can deliver pizzas. You can become an athlete. Whatever you want to do. You're still going to be in that same spot at 28 years old. And all the things leading up to it, for example, if you went to college for 8 years to become a doctor, that's going to be gone, right? If you spent all that time eating junk food, it's all going to be gone. So all of like the dopamine and the serotonin of all the things you did really will not matter. What will matter is where you're at that point.
All the
based
sacrifice
upon,
is worth it.
Yeah, based upon, but even the sacrifices, it's in the past,
That's it.
right? So like if you busted your ass for those 10 years, you're still dealing with the results. And so that really stuck out with me. Like, and then it goes back to the slight edge. Like, where do you want to be? And you don't need to know how to get there. You can literally make it at one decision at a time, right? Like, I want to lose 100 pounds. Should I eat this donut? No. Okay, we made that decision. Then move on to the next one, right? But that's always stuck out to me. I tell my kids that too, and I think it works well because like my son's 20 now. He's gonna be 21. No, he's 20. He's gonna be 21 in January, and I tell him the same thing. I'm like, he'll want to buy something. Now he's starting to save a little bit of money, and I'm like, man, how long have you been saving money? He's like 3 months. Like, what if you started at 16? All the time was gone. So yeah, you may not have been able to go play top golf or something and spend $300 on a Friday night, but like that enjoyment's gone too. Like that's in the past. Now you're going to be with the bank account, right? And so like I think that's really hard for people to grasp and think about, but it's the same for everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like these types of conversations, be sure to follow The Necessary Entrepreneur on your favorite platform so you never miss out on future content. When did you start coming into contact with the gurus of self-improvement? Was it around that time, 18, 19?
Yeah,
was it
when I joined prepaid legal.
So that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense why they do it because, when you join a network marketing company, for one, you can make a ton of money in that, but most people don't make
only
any
a
money.
Few.
Right? Very, very few make
Were
any
they
money.
honest about that?
I don't think they're I mean, I think they were more honest than most.
Okay.
Like, it's like,
because that's the only thing I hate about network marketing.
yeah.
Is when they don't tell you the truth.
Yeah, and I think that's what was different with prepaid legal. Like they would say, most people are not going to make any money doing this, but we can tell you how you will make money.
There you go.
Right?
But
most people won't.
There you go.
Right? And so the thing with network marketing is, they want you to sell to your friends, your family, make a list, right? All your friends and family are going to tell you, no, that's stupid. That's not going to work. And so you're going to want to quit. Well, how do you keep someone from not quitting? Get their mind right. Get them dreaming. Get them having that vision. And then for some, they're just always chasing the dream. They're not doing the activity. But for a very few, which probably are the ones that are successful in it, they actually do the things, right? And so that's when I really started investing in the mindset and the personal development is at 19. And like today, I mean, I spend a lot of time investing in still my mindset, personal development. Like I still listen to Jim Rohn regularly, Zig Ziglar,
It's the one guy that I wish I would have met.
Oh, me too.
Just to be around him.
Me too.
I had a guy on the podcast that directly trained with him for years.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Back in the 90s, and he back with VHS tapes.
Okay.
He would have to record everything he did. He was in Jim Rohn's direct mentoring system, and he would have to record himself, send the videos to Jim, and Jim Rohn actually watched them, and would video and critique and send it back.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Wouldn't it have been?
Yeah.
Yeah. Without that, this guy wouldn't be sitting here. Without getting your mind right.
For sure.
So the underpinning to everything we talk about the hard stuff and the success and raising kids and meeting with big buyers and flashlights and batteries, if you wouldn't have gotten your mind right, you don't make the right decisions.
No doubt. And it's not even about making the right decisions because like what's the right decision, right?
Something that keeps you going and progressing, I guess.
Yeah, getting in the right direction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, but again, it goes back to like, what do you want, right? And so like if you don't know what you want, how do you know what the right decision is? Right. And so like, that's why I think it goes back to like what my dad said, right. With really thinking about the future, where do you want to be? And then making the right decisions based upon that. So I think at the end of the day, like the biggest advice anybody should have is like, figure out what you want. Like you said in the notebook, like, what do you want?
What do you want?
Well, make a decision that's going to get you closer to there.
Because, in that it was a script, but he would have accepted if she just left and went.
Sure.
To the other guy. And then I can move on with my life and do what I have to do. But that's what we have to do for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we keep on 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Can make a decision.
That's all you have to do, right? Either go be an employee, and I would make an argument, be the best employee, because great employees are extremely valuable to companies.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that work at this place that I get to operate, and I'm fortunate enough. But there's a lot who don't. And it's just, and they need to, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, they need to work on developing their mind as well.
For sure.
Because what they need to listen to is, if you want a raise, if you want a promotion, if you want to improve your life, and you don't want to go through this pain of entrepreneurship, because it is painful. I don't advise everyone to do it.
Absolutely not.
Right? But if you want to be an employee, there's actually a way you can still have everything almost you want.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
And so many people are just sitting back waiting and performing in an average way. What do you love about employees? Like, we won't name any people. We're not trying to have them listen, and they're like, he was talking about me.
Sure.
But what do you love?
Love about having employees?
No, just in general, like when you really get inspired, you're really happy to work with one. Because just like there's a teacher's pet,
Sure.
the reason why they became the teacher's pet is because they just did the right shit.
Yeah.
Right? And what makes you really love to be around some of your employees? The ones you love to spend time with the most?
Yeah, so I think like most people that I'm around, to be honest, I'm not really around people unless I want to be around them anymore, right? Because it just takes so much energy.
So what makes you want to be around them?
So what makes me want to be around people, there's a couple of things, obviously, like if I enjoy the time around them, right? But when it comes to employees, and it's funny you mentioned this, I just had this conversation yesterday because I'm interviewing some new bookkeepers. And I said, the first interview was with my COO, and he's interviewing them for like skill sets and explaining what we're doing. And the first thing I said was, I'm not really here to interview on your skill sets because you have them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having a second interview. I'm here to learn how you tick. I want to learn your philosophy, right? I want to learn, what gets you motivated and what keeps you going. And so I explained to them, I said, my best employees are ones that take ownership, and they're ones that I can give a problem to, and they figure it out, right? They're resourceful. And I said, so in my company, for anybody that comes here, if they want to work through it from a list, like this is what you do all day, like this is not the job for you. So like my best employees and the ones that are paid the best are the ones that solve the most problems, right? And so they also give me problems too, right? Because really good employees, they know they're good, right? And so like they're not as easily to I guess mold
to buy into the system.
Yeah, exactly, right? But
don't you appreciate that because that's
absolutely,
who you work to?
Absolutely, and actually most of my best employees are entrepreneurs, right? Like I promote entrepreneurs in my company, right? My COO owns a tattoo studio. He owns real estate. My VP of sales owns a clothing company. My lead media guy has a media company as well. He works full time for me, and I like that, right? Because during the day, I expect them to give me their time and their dedication, right? And you see it all the time, like first one in, last one out. It's hard to expect your employees to do that because it's not their baby. But when you help them in what they're doing and their passion, they're going to give you so much more, right? And so, like, I think I think most of my best employees they're entrepreneurs as well. They're not all, of course, but most of them are. And I think it goes back to what you asked, like, why do you enjoy working with these employees, right? I love seeing the growth, right? I get like personal satisfaction in knowing like what we're creating in my business is like feeding their family, right? It's giving them their livelihood, and they have that possibility and that ability. And so that's what I like most about working with employees, because honestly, at the end of the day, I could make a pretty dang significant amount of money just selling flashlights to these big customers, like the Walmarts of the world. I don't need a warehouse. I can ship directly to their facility, right? And I for sure I can make $2 or $3 million a year just selling out of my garage, right? But I don't want to do that. It's not fun by yourself, right? I want to see other people grow and better themselves as a result of what we're doing.
Yeah, there's something special about, you don't need verbal credit from the outside world with them, but to be able to sit back and for you to know if that individual who's busting their ass, going all in, taking ownership, but if they wouldn't have found this thing, maybe they would have been like Cody and they would have found something, but that's not a guarantee. If they wouldn't have found this thing with a leader like me who's trying to push them, their life wouldn't be that.
Yeah.
And those can be quiet because nobody wants to give you credit for it. But when you know that, that's impactful.
Yeah, it's impactful, but in the same breath, like, I think that's one of the very stressful things as an entrepreneur, right? You've got employees, right? And so like my buddy Jim Minnie, he's my best friend. One of the companies he knows, they're laying off people, right? And he's like, man, that sucks for blah blah blah, laid off, man. That's the terrible thing about having a job. Like you never know when you're gonna get laid off, right? You just never know. And I said, imagine owning a business. Because if you get laid off, your entire company is laid off, right? If you quit working, none of your employees have a job. And he's like, I never thought about it that way. And I'm like, as the owner of that company, that they're laying them off because they're forced to, right? We don't in business, like that could happen any time. Like there's so many variables that happen. Like you could be in business today and out of business tomorrow, right? And so like, it's great to see that, but also it comes with a lot of responsibility.
So why do you do it?
I've asked myself that a lot, to be honest, when it comes to the entrepreneurism, because I'm always dealing with something. There's never been I don't think in the past 10 years, there's been a time where I wasn't engulfed in something major, whether it's a lawsuit, litigation, compliant, whatever it is, right? And I've come to, not so much recently, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, maybe I should just be a sales guy. Maybe I should just be selling flashlights, right? And so at the end of the day, why do I do it? That's a dang good question sometimes, right? But I think it's because I know, like I said before, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? And I like being in control, which you're never in control as an entrepreneur, but I like being able to control the input. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what the results are going to be, but I know like if I do this, this, and this, there's going to be results, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's why I do it. Like I love creating, and to be honest, like that's the funnest part is just like trying things, and when they work, it's really fun.
But what about when they don't?
You just don't do that again, And in fact, more things don't work for me than honestly they do work. But I'm willing to try more things.
Does speed matter in your world?
100%, very, very much.
I just had some guys who are they're from Mexico. I do construction and stuff all the time, and I try to have a great relationship with these guys. So I'm always messing with them, and I'll start to pick up some Spanish. And when I do, sometimes I hold back, and then I'll use it later.
Yeah.
And I was saying something. I was like, man, you guys got to speed it up, man. But they're really good workers. And I was like, what's your word for speed? He's like, rapido. I was like, okay, give me something else, right? And I said, what's it for crazy? He's like, loco. I said, I want you to be loco rapido.
Yeah.
I want you to be crazy fast.
Yeah, I think in business, speed's very important, especially when you have a product-based business, right? Speed to market is super important.
Why? Because somebody else is going to fill it if you don't get it?
I think the market's always changing for one, right? And then I also think that, we all think we have like the best ideas and they're only ours. But I can tell you there's been so many entrepreneurs that have came to me and they're like, hey, I've got this idea for a product. And it's like my brain is always thinking of ideas. And a lot of times I'm like, I've thought about that, right? And so if you don't act on it, someone else is going to.
Yeah. So tell us about this retail world. What in your brain here in 2025, what do you know about retail?
So retail, it's still huge, right? Retail sales is way bigger than what online sales are, even to this day. But online sales are definitely growing at a rapid pace, and retail sales is definitely dwindling, right? And so I think like everything goes through ebbs and flows, right? And so I don't think retail's going away, right? I think the retailers that are doing it well, like Walmart, for example, they're going to continue growing and they're going to get bigger and bigger. I think, though, because of the online marketplace, the ones that could typically get by with not doing things exactly right, that's not going to happen anymore.
Give us an example of that. You don't have to say a specific company or something.
Let's talk about Big Lots,
yep.
Right? So Big Lots, they're one of my first customers, 1,400 stores. They bought a ton of product off me, right? I'm talking a lot,
like
right?
hundreds of thousands or something crazy.
Tens of millions,
okay.
Right?
Yep.
They bought multiple millions per year. And so with Big Lots, you have to have a story, right? Like, for example, who shops at Big Lots?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
No.
That's a problem.
Yep.
Because I didn't even know.
I know not me.
Yeah, I didn't even know who shopped at Big Lots.
And I'll go to Walmart. So it's not that I'm not willing to go somewhere with a rap of being cheap and all that. I will take my ass down there.
Yeah, so once upon a time, people shopped at Big Lots because they wanted to find the deals, right? They're called Big Lots. Well, that's because they would buy closeouts, and you would go on a Tuesday and you'd be able to find a deal, and then you'd go next Tuesday and be a different deal. Well, then Big Lots got so big, 1,400 stores, they could no longer buy closeouts. So then they started buying off guys like me, right, that had a good price and a good product. and and then they started buying branded products. Well, now that customer that they built their entire store on,
They're priced out.
right? Well, not even
wrong.
priced out. Like now they're not getting that treasure hunt anymore.
Yep.
So they're losing that customer. And so now that's like their whole image, right? And so now they're going to a new customer, and that worked for a little while, right? But then they lost their entire strategy. And so that's what retailers are doing, because they want to just chase the next thing. Like, okay, it's working for Macy's, I'm making that up. We're going to try to doing that. Except instead of just staying in where you're at and then developing, your story. So it's very important to be able to say, who is your customer, right? And Big Lots didn't know that.
Do you think it's as simple as this, and you can knock it down, but is it this quarterly system of public companies? Is it just being so profit driven, and that's just all that matters? Is that what takes their mind? Is that why they're chasing the new thing? They see someone doing it and making margin and taking margin. Like, let's go do that. That's where the money is.
Yeah, I think it's almost that shiny object syndrome, right? And so
That's a way to fail.
Yeah, for Big Lots, it's like, okay, this closeout is 30 cents. Well, I can buy a pretty dang similar light for 50 cents. Well, we can get $2 for that one, right? And so they're like, oh, we're gonna chase that short term. But again, it's like, if Mercedes starts saying, hey, you know what, Hyundai's selling a lot of cars, we need to drop our prices. Is anybody gonna want a Mercedes anymore?
Not the old customers,
right? Yep. They're not, yep. Right? Yep. And even the new customer, they're gonna want it at first, but then they're gonna be like, man, it's the same price as this Hyundai.
Yep.
They lose that appeal, and that's what happened to Big Lots. They lost their customer base, and nobody would say who shops at Big Lots. No idea. Whoever, even myself. Like if I went to Big Lots, you would never say to yourself,
I wouldn't know what to expect.
And you would never say to yourself like, oh, I need to buy. I'm gonna go check Big Lots out. It was always something like, oh, I'm in the area, I'm going to stop by.
Yeah, don't you need to be known for something? Like in the real estate world, so we have a bunch of realtors and stuff, and I said, hey, listen, guys, I'm not trying to make new friends. I'm trying to build impactful relationships. The only thing I need to be so valuable to them. Mm-hmm. The moment they think anything real estate, they think me.
Yeah. Yeah, the authority.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I only sell flashlights, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't get into this, but when I started my company, it was called Premier Products. Because I wanted to be a product-based company, right? I wanted to sell you. It went back to Dana at Come and Go. I sold him batteries, developed that relationship. I'm like, okay, I'll sell you flashlights now. And so my first thought process was, I'm going to get these accounts, and then I'm just going to sell them everything, right? And I'll just keep sourcing and sourcing. But I learned really quickly, people want to be, the jack of all trades, but they're always the master of none, right? And if I'm going to be the authority when it comes to flashlights, I can't sell you tools and knives and gloves either.
Isn't that what the customer wants? They want to work with someone who's the expert in that area.
Yeah, it's just like if you need brain surgery, you're not going to see a foot doctor.
That's it.
Right? They may be the best foot doctor in the world, but you want to go to the best brain surgeon in the world. And I think that's what's happening in a lot of retailers. They're losing their mission. They're losing what they were going after, and maybe it's out of necessity. Like it's not working, so we got to switch things up and change things up.
Yeah.
And they're just not. When it comes to the online, I don't think a lot of them took it seriously, right? They're like, oh, we're going to wait this out. We're going to see how this goes. But you can't do that. So like Walmart, the reason why I think Walmart's going to be very successful is because they have the retail stores. There's 4,000 of them. And now they're building up their online platform very, very rapidly. People want things instantly, right? So now imagine like Amazon, you can get it the next day. Some of the big cities you can get the same day. But there's a Walmart in every corner, right? So now imagine when Walmart, you can buy something online, they're going to deliver that same day, just like Uber delivers your food.
But they use the store to pick it from the store too, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is they can just pick it right at the shelf, right? And so I think companies like Walmart are going to do very well. And so the goal is just to partner with or work with companies that are they're forward thinking. But for sure, retail is not dead, and even if it was, it'll come back. Yeah. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah, have you seen that in business?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even today, like we think about nostalgic products, like everything fizzles away, and then next thing you know, it comes back.
I think about stuff I had when I was 20 years ago. I was like, damn it, why didn't I keep that in the box?
Yeah, for sure.
You see stuff now, like what in the?
Yeah, like the what are they? The little. What do they call them? The Beanie Babies?
Oh yeah.
Remember, like they used to give those away at McDonald's Happy Meals.
Now they're worth something again.
Yeah, right.
That's
now
insane.
they got the something. They got some other doll out of China.
You had
now.
Care Bears or something, man.
Yeah.
You know, this was some
Yeah,
He-Man figurines.
No, I had trolls, man. I had trolls.
Did you? With the little hair coming out of the top?
Yeah, maybe.
What else is on your mind here? We're going to get you out of here to Offspring here soon, man. You're going to
Sure.
party in Cincinnati.
We're gonna try. Hopefully, I remember all the words.
You think you will?
No, probably not. I got a good memory, but it's short.
So you're a musician too, huh?
No, but I did just buy a harmonica. I want to start playing the harmonica.
Well, there's some. Bruce Springsteen has a harmonica.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan played a harmonica, I think. I think you're in a pretty good crowd.
Well, growing up, like I always wanted to be the guy that went to the parties with the guitar, right? Just just have a guitar out, serenade. But that never happened to me. So now I'm like, I think I can figure out how to play the harmonica, right? It's just like 10 keys, you blow in it a little bit. So
Is your wife going to look at you differently when you play the harmonica?
I think so. I think she's going to be pretty impressed. That'll probably impress her more than anything else.
So you invoke the sons, but you guys have been together for a long time, you and the wife. I'm assuming she's a positive influence on your life.
For sure she is. She was my first why, right? Like I want to give her everything she wants, right? And she has very high standards, right? And she didn't always have high standards when it comes to like having like the finer things and things like that. But she wants things just as much as I want things, right? And I want to give them to her just as much as I want them, right? And so like I think that's incredibly important to have someone. Some people will look at it as like not great, right? Like for example, like if I want to travel, my wife's like, no, we're not staying in that hotel. Like I can't tell you how many times we've traveled somewhere and like checked out and had to get another hotel. And in the moment of things, I'm thinking to myself, what? I'm taking you to Disney World. Come on, let's just stay here, right? But now looking back, that was really good because she had a higher standard for me. And, Brad, my buddy Brad Lee always says like, if your wife is spending too much of your money, that's your problem. You need to earn more money, right? And a lot of people don't agree with that, but like,
when you'll agree with it?
When Brad's sitting next to you.
And when you start earning more money.
That's right, right? And Brad said something else. I think it was Brad that said this. Not Brad, it was my buddy John. He said, every woman, every relationship is in it for something, right? Like you'll see the pretty girls dating the older guys maybe, right? And people say she's a gold digger. Well, what's that older man dating the younger girl for, right? That every relationship, you're there for something.
There's an exchange of something.
Right? And so my buddy John says that, every woman is a gold digger. You just have to find one in your budget, right? Now, people might not like that sentiment, but at the end of the day, like people want nice things, right? And now that doesn't mean that they were with you just because you have the nice things, but like it's natural to want more, right? And so I love the fact that my wife holds that standard, right? Even though at the time I'm like, just be happy with what you got sometimes, you know what I mean? But she's pushing me, right? And but at the same breath, she's accepting of things when they don't go the way that they should.
See, there it is.
Right? So like,
that's the thing.
We've been together, and my wife, she's beautiful, right?
You have to say that.
But she is.
But you have to say that.
But if she wasn't, I probably would still say that. But
but she is
very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Incredibly intelligent. She's a nurse. She's got 3 degrees.
So why the hell did she pick you?
Yeah, exactly, right? Because she got with me when I was 18, right? When I was the class clown, I was the funny guy.
And she thought that was cool?
Yeah, and by the time she didn't, I was like, well, you're pregnant, So,
tricked you.
Yeah, too late, you know what I mean?
So, but keep going. You said she's beautiful. And
yeah, so anyways, she's all of those things. And so if someone sees me today with my wife, and I'm not, she's out of my league, to be honest, right? Like she is. But she was with me when we had absolutely nothing, right? I'm telling you, like, when we were, 19, 20, which I don't think anybody has much at 19 or 20, but, like, we weren't going out.
Wasn't given to you.
We weren't going out to dinners, right? If we were, it was a Chinese buffet where the kids ate for free, right? $20 bill. We were overdrafting our checking, right? And so, like, at that time, she wasn't like, we need to stay in a better hotel. We need to buy a nicer car. So she knows, like, what I'm capable of, right? So she's not saying, when we fly to Mexico first class, she's not saying, why didn't we take the jet, right? Because I'm not capable of having that big $30, $40 million jet yet, right? Yet, right? But if she knew I was, and I wasn't doing the things, that's how she would be. Like, she knows, like, we can stay at any hotel we want. Like, why are we staying at this one, right? And so at the end of the day, it just holds me to a level of accountability.
You know, if people are talking about what people try to say is, hey, you should use your money for experiences, right? This whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, let's go there. Spend $1,800 to stay in a hotel one night and tell me you don't talk about that for a decade.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love experiences, and that's something she's taught me too. Like I was never into like, honestly, the traveling. We just really started traveling a lot more.
You were a worker.
I'm working, and it's back to productivity.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to be productive. But now I can travel, and I have people working at the office. Right. But train of thought again. See,
so you travel. Sorry, the experiences and stuff.
Oh yeah. So experiences, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm realizing like that's the stuff we talk about.
Where's your favorite place you've traveled? Right now, like in the past year or two, what's on your mind?
I like going to China. Right. We do a lot of business in China, and when I go to China, I'm only a flashlight company, right? And so we're only buying flashlights. So to these Chinese vendors and factories, we're a really big deal for them, right? And what's really cool is, and I talk about this a lot because some people frown on me buying from China, right? They're like, "You buy from China?" I'm like, "Well, if I didn't, you wouldn't buy my flashlights because they'd be $300 or $400." But at the end of the day, so I have my company, my flashlight company. I've got about 50 employees in Peru, and not only that though, because of the battery, the flashlight company, now I own the building that I'm in. That's got 30 employees, and then I have the restaurant and all these other things that have stemmed off because of the flashlight company. So all in all, there's probably 200 or 300 people in my area that are working because of the flashlight company. But then I go to China, right, and there's 200 or 300 people at one factory, right, and there's like a whole ecosystem that was created because of this guy from a little town of 10,000 people decided he's going to sell a flashlight. And so, like, I love going to China just to see that, right? To see what's going on and all of the results of just that one little idea.
How's it feel when they put you up on a pedestal and you're the man? Be honest.
To be honest, like, not many people put me on a pedestal
In China?
Not really, right? Actually, in China a little bit for sure, right? Actually, I'm lying a lot of bit, right? In China, and that's because, like I said, they're making, like, we're literally the reason why they have all these employees, right? That they have all this infrastructure. So over there, they definitely do that. Like if I'm going to a trade show, if you sell flashlights, who they call me the flashlight guy, right? But in my area, like no one does that. Like because like I'm just a regular guy like everybody else.
But in China, you're not. So I'm just asking, how does that feel? We're talking about success. How's it feel?
It feels incredible. Right, and it feels incredible because it wasn't always that way, right? And so it's like you look back and you say to yourself, and actually I've never ever said I've made it, never, right? Even to this day, like I haven't made it yet. But when you're there, you say to yourself, not quite like I've made it, but like where you came from, and you're like, I'm doing this,
and this is what it's going to feel like all the time.
Yeah, right.
Once
and so,
you
like,
do,
yeah, and so it's not even a thing of like pompous or like, oh, look at me on this pedestal, but it's like all of the work, because I know what it was like the first time I went to China, right?
Yep. But you did that. That's it. You can connect all the bad times and all the failure and all the pain and where you come from, and then you're sitting here in China selling these millions and millions of units, and these people are looking at you like, this guy's done it. That's real.
Yeah,
that's real.
And it's
nobody's taking that away from you, man.
No, and that's cool. I never thought about it that way. Right, those are things that you can't lose, right? That experience, right? And so now, like I said, my wife is all about experiences, right? And I think she used to I thought she used to say it like because she just wanted to travel more, right? But like now looking back, like those are the things to remember. Like my sons remember their favorite vacations when I took them to China, and this was like 10 years ago, right? And we didn't even do anything, but just being around the people I work with, going to the factories, like that's the vacation they always talk about. Like
next time you go to China for business, I want to go.
October.
I want to go to China, and even if I want to go to China in October.
It'll be fun.
Okay, so he's not going to say yes, but I'm serious.
No, I just said we're going.
Okay,
October.
my mind's intrigued.
October.
Is this like 7 days, 8 days? What is it?
So usually I'll go for like probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right. So we'll usually go to like some trade shows for a little bit, then we'll do factory tours, and then what I do is I actually set up like little mini trade shows in our hotel, and so I'll invite like 15 to 20 suppliers. They'll come in, do like a 20-minute presentation.
I'll be your free sales guy, man.
It'd be fun. We'll have a good time.
I'll sell some shit.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
I'll
man.
be like the battery guy for Cody that Cody was.
Yeah.
Right? You weren't making shit. You built the thing for the guy, but you learned something. I've always been fascinated about the importing business and about this manufacturing. It doesn't line up with what I'm doing at all.
Sure.
But I need to feed my brain about it.
Yeah.
To really understand this process.
You know, the cool thing, and that's why I started my other company recently, Concept to Consumer, because honestly, a lot of people are like that. Like they're fascinated with developing a product. And if I was to ask 100 people, you ever thought about a product you want to invent? And I bet you 70 to 80% of them would say, I've got one right now on my phone.
I don't want to invent it. I've been on Alibaba and all these places. I want to buy the thing.
Yeah, and
I want to
make
go
it better.
I want to go buy hundreds of thousands of them, be the distributor, run the thing and do it.
That's
and
easy.
And then tweak it and make it better.
That's easy. Yeah, when it comes to flashlights, like that's how we started. Like I literally found my supplier on Alibaba.com.
There you go.
It was on Christmas Eve. I don't know why I was on Alibaba, but the guy was on Alibaba. We happened to be the same age, and he answered my request. And I started buying flashlights off him, right? And now that person is now the general manager of my entire company in China, right? And so, China's fun, right?
Okay. I didn't think it was going to be China, but I've learned something else. And I'm trying to invite myself in October. I'm trying.
I said we're going.
Okay, here we go.
No problem.
All right. I got a budget of like, you're going to fly. You're going to spend $10,000 a ticket for first class.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll ride coach.
Yeah, no, you won't.
I'll
way.
I'll ride coach.
Yeah, maybe on the way there. Then you'll figure it out on the way back. That's not happening. Because usually what I do is I usually always book like a premium economy seat.
Okay.
Right, and
which is like a first class.
Yeah, kind of. Right, you're not laying down though.
You got the space.
Yeah, and so then when you get to the airport, you upgrade, and it's like $1,500 to upgrade. But I'm telling you, there's been 2 occasions where there wasn't an upgrade, and I'm telling you that is rough. 12-hour flight in a regular seat, and especially when I was 350 pounds. Yeah, that was rough.
Flew to the Mediterranean to the lie flats a couple years ago. Didn't even feel like I was flying.
Yeah, you were in first class, obviously.
Laying flat, it was incredible.
Yeah, I love it.
I fly first class everywhere now.
Yeah, me too.
But my brain still, that poor mark, something happens to me when I look at that. I'm like $14,000 for that first class ticket.
I'm the same exact way.
It hurts me, man.
That's why it's like I'll just book the regular one, and then I'll get to the airport. And sometimes
and then
it's
it
not
feels
even
like
cheaper.
$1,500 in your mind. Then
and sometimes you pay like $3,000 or $4,000 to upgrade, but then like you're there and you have to do
That's it.
right?
Yeah,
So.
I've used Hopper, that app.
Okay.
It gives you the prediction
Sure.
on when you should buy and when it's going to go down and all that.
Yeah, I use just Google Flights.
That's it.
You know, you can just put, and then it'll show you a whole map, and you can just find out when the cheapest days are throughout the whole year.
This is going to be an education. I have to have a budget for the education and just go and just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
$10,000. That's all you need, man.
That's all I need?
Everything else will be covered.
Okay.
You'll be eating like a king as long as you like seafood.
I'm there. And if I don't, I'll eat something else.
Yeah. Do you don't like seafood?
Listen, I'm not going to put it in front of me. If that's what the experience is,
All
we're
right.
doing what we're doing.
Because in China, when we go out to eat,
Don't make me eat some sea urchin or some shit, dude.
no, if you don't want to. But in China, like everything's a buffet. But it's not like our buffets. It's everything's in live fish tanks, right? So if you're eating crab,
So it's like a lobster from Red Lobster when I grew up poor. It's like I want that one.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just feet of aquariums. You know.
Is it all raw?
No, it's cooked. They cook
Okay,
it.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, they cook
We
it. I'm telling you that the food is good.
Okay. All right. I'm there in October.
It's top notch.
We're gonna hold. If we don't, we're gonna put a lot of money. And we're gonna run ads against this moment. And I'll be like, this guy is not who he says he is.
Hey, you know what? That's PR though, right?
Yeah, it is.
You know,
there's not too much bad PR.
No, come on.
Maybe if somebody was on the Epstein files,
Maybe, but you'll never know. What Epstein files?
Yeah, none.
Do they have files? I thought there wasn't any.
I think it's all made up.
Yeah.
Is he even a guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
You got to get out of here, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love being around people like you.
Thank you.
There's a lot to learn, and this experience in life, we can all learn from it. I hope people do today, and it's just about getting started.
Yeah.
And you'll find an opportunity in the moments when you didn't know there was an opportunity there, and just make a decision. You know, put yourself around somebody that maybe gives you this advice to, you know where to buy them, you know who to sell them to. Hey, that's 50% of it.
Yeah. And then if you don't know all those things, the biggest struggle was with me, I didn't know anybody that ever sold into retail or even bought from China, right? But now, like, there's so many people that have done it. Like, for example, if someone wants to buy from China, get a hold of me. Right? If you want to develop a product-based company, get a hold of me. And if not me, there's tons of other people that have done it already as well.
But you're the one that they know.
I'm the one that they know, right? And so that's why you see me so much on Instagram anymore. Like you said, the evolution of my Instagram, it's really evolved in the last really 60 to 90 days.
I saw it.
Right, and that's intentional because I want people to get to know me, right? And then for twofold. One, that's my business, right? But secondly, like the more people that know me is the more people that I can help, right? And so at the end of the day, you know, that's what I get enjoyment out of, seeing people's growth, creativity, and then obviously there's got to be a little monetary value to it too, right? You can't do it for free.
He needs some equity,
But
y'all.
that doesn't mean I'm charging you to take you to China, though. Okay, that's you just got to pay for your airfare.
I'm good. I pay for my airfare because
Yeah.
they're paying for all the food and stuff. Those folks are paying for all that stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to experience this. All right, I'm there. I just got to
fun.
be back for Houston November 13th.
Yeah, you'll be back. It'll be in October.
Is this going to be I'm not going to get lost, am I?
No,
Okay, this isn't like Bangkok and all that.
no, you will feel like
I got the passport. Let's go, man.
yeah, you'll need a visa though.
What do I need to do for that?
Just go get one.
Go register,
to the
go.
post office.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've got all the stuff, man. My real ID and my TSA doesn't do it. I'd need the international.
Visa, travel, business visa.
Okay. I'll get it.
10-year visa they give you.
Okay.
You go for 10 years.
So I need to get on it right now.
Yep. Yeah, you'll have in plenty of time. Takes like 4 weeks.
Okay. Going to China, guys.
October.
Hey, we're going to do some content. We're going to do some stuff. You're going to have to teach me all the content things you know, Jack.
It'll be a fun time.
All right, man. Let's go. Is anybody else going?
Yeah, I always bring a buddy with me or somebody. My brother goes a lot of times. He works in the company, the flashlight company.
So what if like midway through you're like, I don't like this fucking guy. Like, will you send me back?
No, we got people to take care of that.
See, this is what I'm talking about, man.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not really around anybody I don't really like.
Okay.
Right.
So
And
right now I qualify in the
yeah,
moment.
you qualify.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you qualify.
We'll
for
find
sure.
out by the end.
For sure. For sure. But like, I was thinking about on the way here. I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I was talking about like, for me, like, I really only hang out with people I enjoy anymore, right? And there's people I enjoy that I don't even hang out with because I'm also like thinking about like productivity as well. And so it just depends on the circumstance. But I was thinking like, how is it that I get like in so many different circles, right? And so like I hang out with some pretty cool people that are way cooler than me. Like, how did I get in their circle? And when it comes down to it, like every time that I get around somebody, I'm always trying to figure out like, how can I help them? What value can I give them? And so I was thinking about it today. Like it's kind of like the damn the whale, right? That has those little sucker fish on their back. Like they're annoying, they're pesky, right? And it comes to a certain point where it latches on. But then eventually that whale figures out like this thing's eating parasites and doing all this other stuff. So he lets them freeload, if you would, right? And so I kind of feel like that's how we all are in a certain aspect. You're not freeloading, by the way, but
I might be in October.
this is getting to something, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm trying to develop a relationship or a friendship, like that's really that heart. Like, how can I help them out? Or what can I do to improve them? And it's not always monetarial either. Is that the word?
Monetary.
Monetary, right? See,
I like you made a new word.
Monetarial. But at the end of the day, I think that you don't always have to be around people that like you necessarily like love or like, right? Like you can learn a lot from everybody, right?
And then more from some.
Yeah, a lot more, right? And so at the end of the day, like there's not really a lot of people that I can say I don't like.
Yeah.
Right? I might not hang out with them or want to be best friends with them, but like I get along with everybody,
That's an evolution of that statement you just made, though, too. Like, you might always felt like that, but for you to articulate it, you haven't always articulated it. You might have thought it,
Yeah.
but to say it,
Sure.
right?
Out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, you're at a different place. Like when you start doing that, I'm not saying you're a Buddhist and stuff yet, right? But
Yeah.
one of the other guys you could have listened to back in the days, not listening anymore, but Wayne Dyer.
Okay.
I don't
Never heard of him.
Oh man, I used to watch him when I didn't have any money. The 2008 housing crisis was difficult. That was 18 months after I started this company.
Oh, wow.
Was not fun. But you fight and you find a way through.
Yeah.
And I turned off my cable. That's just those places in life. You don't have any money, but I still had PBS.
Yeah.
And I'd work these long, crazy hours, and I'd get home at 11 or 12 o'clock, and Charlie Rose was on, and that's the best engaging interview I've ever seen. Like him and Larry King, but Charlie Rose,
yeah.
he would just pull the brilliance out of everyone. And then right after it, Wayne Dyer would consistently be on, and he was a thought guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he would talk about your dharma and talking about all this stuff. And that's when my evolution started.
Yeah.
Started listening, like, man, there's a different way to think. You listen to a Charlie Rose interviewing people, and you get the best out of all of them, and then we're after it. So it's a little bit different experience than network marketing, but it's a similar thing.
It wasn't necessarily the network marketing that created the growth, right? It was what they were instilling in me to do, and then I went and got it from elsewhere, like from Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, all those things.
Warren Buffett says that about joining the Rotary Club back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I was in the Rotary Club, too.
So he said that he did not have social skills, which you can even see at this day. He said he had to go there to learn how to talk with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he said without that, he wouldn't have been able to achieve what he has.
Yeah, that's why I think it's very valuable to be an employee, right? You learn a lot, right? And not only that, but you learn, again, it's perspective, right? It's like, if your wife's having a baby and she's screaming in labor and you're like, I know how you feel, you're going to get smacked. There's no way you can know how you feel because you've never been in that position. And so as an employer, if you were never an employee, it's going to be really hard to have that same perspective, right?
You probably never can.
You won't be able to, right? And so I think that's why I work pretty good with the people around me, because I was an employee for a long time, and not a long time actually. I started my business at 24 years old, but like I have that perspective, right? And so I can speak to certain ways and understand how someone feels, right? And so I think that's super important.
It's important because when as an employee they made you feel not good about yourself.
Yeah.
And then when they did, we all had bad managers and good managers. I learned the most from my bad managers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually it's like business. You learn from your failures and your mistakes. Those are the catalysts.
In the moment, it pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I hated it, and it felt disrespectful. But then later in life, I was like, man, how beneficial is that to know not to do that shit?
Well, I'll close this with a really funny, quick story because this is good. And so I remember I told you I was 24 years old. I left that company. And it wasn't like something I was planning on doing. I just got in a tizzy with somebody, got into a little bit of an argument, and I basically called my boss and I said, hey, I'm not working for you anymore, but I'm not quitting because I need unemployment, right? And he said, I can't fire you. You're too valuable. And I said, I'm not coming back to work tomorrow, but I'm not quitting, just letting you know. And he said, I can't fire you yet. You're too valuable. And I said, all right, well, I'm out the door. So I left. But the reason why all that happened was there was an employee there that was running the company. He was the president of the company that we just did not see eye to eye. We butted heads. And I think it was a matter, there was two things. One was my authority problem. He was my boss, and we're about the same age. Two, I think he was a little bit jealous of my position in the company, in the sales and the purchasing. And so we both had our faults. But long story short, that gentleman is now the CEO of my company, right? And he's been there for 12 years, I think, right? So, it's just funny how that happened, right?
What's the moral of the story?
The moral of the story is you got to swallow your pride sometimes. You gotta really look back and look at the situation from a perspective situation, right? Again, like I said, I can say now that it was a problem with authority. I didn't want to be told what to do. And I felt like I'm the head guy, I'm the top sales guy, right? So now I can look at my salespeople and think like that's what they're thinking too.
The top salespeople, that's what they're thinking.
That's
this
what they're
ego?
thinking, right?
Absolutely.
And so I can talk to them a certain way.
So
right?
instead of losing them, let me make sure I can work with them.
Bring them back down, right?
That's it.
But the moral of the story is, what the hell was the moral of the story?
Well, basically, piss people off and quit when you think you're amazing.
Learning, right? Yeah, learning, right? And so at the end of the day, that was a difficult thing for me to do, to call the guy that literally was the reason why I left the company, and like, hey, you know what? I realized, you weren't an a-hole.
It was my fault.
It was my fault, right? So all my pride now, like I said, he's the CEO of my company, and he's one of the guys that is an entrepreneur doing big things, and he's running the business. Well, parts of the business,
How long did it take for you to get there? I know we got to get. How long did it take?
For what?
For when you quit, but you didn't quit from when you called him.
A year and a half, or maybe it was 2 years.
That's a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah, probably 2 years.
Kudos.
And
that's one of your defining moments.
Yeah, and we didn't talk at all in between there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how we got. I just called him. I think we met at a Red Lobster, and he ordered like half the right side of the menu, and it was unfortunate because we were actually friends too beforehand. Like I knew we went to school together, we grew up together, and so it really sucked because he was my boss, but he was also my friend. And so now, we have that back, of course.
We learn from the tough times.
That's for sure.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad it brought you to sense. So if Offspring ends up being like takes you back to the moment when you first started listening to him and had a CD and you're like, man, this is awesome. I get credit for that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. We wouldn't be there otherwise, right?
This is the stuff we're talking about, though. Just go all in and say yeah. And it's harder to say yes now because we're so busy. But if you're strategic about it and try to combine it with an experience and meet new people, because there's always something intriguing. It's like, I wonder what this is going to be. You've been on podcast. Yeah, the title. He's had some. Wonder what this is. And we always think the same thing with a guest. I'm like, I wonder how this conversation is going to be. They're like, me an awesome human. Are they going to piss me off?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to keep my shit together, right, and act like I like them? Even though I think we're probably vastly different, it's such a connection on the thing that you're working on and achieving, and you're 8 years younger than me. And so I'm kind of pissed at myself, and I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you, man? This guy's where it feels like mentally and emotionally we're the same place, and you got there 8 years sooner.
Yeah, I think that's difficult to think about too, because I think we fall in a trap.
Oh yeah.
Like, for example, if I'm talking to my buddy Brad, and Brad, sometimes I talk to him and he's like, man, you got it made, man. You got the house in the country, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking to myself, Brad, you've got it freaking made, man.
Las
You got
Vegas.
the nice office in Vegas. You overlooking the lake. You got all these employees. You got a super nice media room. You know what I mean? And so, at the end of the day, I think when we compare ourselves to other people, it's against that perspective.
Yep.
Right. And
It's so stupid.
We're all just playing our own little simulation, right?
The simulation
yeah,
game. Here we go.
right?
We'll stay away from
Yeah.
you. Let's we got to get you out of here. You got
said
to
that
go
on
to
purpose.
Offspring. That's the next conversation, the simulation, if it is one. Thanks for coming in, man.
No, I loved it. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
Yep. And we roped him in. Asia. I got to go get my visa. So I get my visa. We're reaching out
right.
and say I'm going.
Let's do it.
All right, man. I'm there. Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a great time tonight. And then what's the place? Like, what's the website, the social media, the place?
So everything's just my name, Cody Grandadam.
Guys.
CODYGRANDADAM.
I'm like,
Did I do
what?
that right?
Yeah. It's like WTF on that last name.
Yeah.
That's the next conversation.
Yeah, we'll do this again.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.